misconceptions of you, because here's the if you go to the knee-jerk conservative reaction, you talk to people who are not interested in anyone that wants to be a democratic socialist, they hear the name Bernie Sanders, the negative implications are that you are somehow or another going to take their money, right? Is that annoying to you?
Yes, it is. Of course it is. And also that I'm Mr. Maduro, I'm a dictator, I love dictatorships and all that stuff. And the truth is, Joe, that if you look at the issues that I campaign on and what I believe on, they are really not terribly radical. They exist in many countries all over the world. For example, we can start on healthcare if you'd like. Is the idea that healthcare is a human right, not a privilege, a radical idea?
I don't think it is.
It's not. And the truth is, we are the only major country on earth. Many people don't know this. We're the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a human right, and yet we end up spending almost twice as much per capita on health care. The function, and you can argue with me if you want, but the function of the current health care system is not to provide quality care to all. It is to make tens of billions of dollars in profit for the drug companies and the insurance companies. That's the function. If you go to Canada, and I live 50 miles away from the Canadian border, you have major heart surgery. You're in the hospital for a month. Do you know what the bill is when you get out?
Zero.
You got it. You go to any doctor you want. You don't have to take out your wallet. And yet they guarantee health care to all of their people, and they spend one half of what we spend. That's kind of what I want to do. And I don't think that that's terribly radical. We have a program now, which everybody knows. It's called Medicare. It was started by Lyndon Johnson back in 1965. It is a popular program. All that I want to do over a 4-year period is to expand it. Today, eligibility age is 65. I want to take it down to 55, 45, 35, everybody over a 4-year period. That's about it. And I want to expand benefits to include dental care, hearing aids, and eyeglasses as well. That's about it. Not too radical.
That doesn't sound radical at all. Now, when you say that Canada spends less, obviously they have less people. You mean less per capita?
Yes, half per capita. Exactly, per capita. And the quality of care is as good or better. Do they have problems? Yeah, they have problems. Everybody has problems. But overall, the healthcare experts will tell you the quality of care there is as good or better than it is in our country.
So what's the hurdle?
Okay, I'll tell you exactly what the hurdle is. The hurdle is exactly the same thing as in every other aspect of our lives. It's the power of money. All right, listen to this. Over the last 20 years, the drug companies alone have spent $4.5 billion in 20 years on lobbying and campaign contributions. That's what we're up against. The knowledge, and I mark my words, within a short period of time, you will see TV ads in California, all over this country, demonizing Bernie Sanders. He wants to do this terrible thing to you. He wants to do that. They have unbelievable amounts of money, and politicians are frightened of that power. I'll give you one example. Back in 2016, I got involved here in a little way with an effort on the part of the nurses to control the cost of prescription drugs in California. You may recall that effort.
I do.
It was a ballot item in one state here in California. Do you know how much the drug companies alone spent to defeat that effort? They spent $131 million on one ballot item in one state. All right. Last year, the top 10 drug companies made $69 billion. A week ago, I went to Canada with a number of Americans who are dealing with diabetes. We bought insulin in Windsor, Ontario for 1/10 the price, 10% of the price, same exact product being charged in America. So you got drug companies that are engaged in collusion and in price fixing who are incredibly greedy. And the result is many elderly people, many working people simply cannot afford the medicine they need. It's unbelievable. And the reason for all of that stuff is we are the only country in the world that does not negotiate with the drug companies. They can charge you any price they want. And that has to do with the fact that we don't have a national health care program. Medicare is not negotiating, et cetera.
Is this something that can really be implemented inside of 4 years?
Yeah,
I mean, it seems
surely.
like it's an enormous endeavor.
Well, I want you to think back, Joe. In 1965, you had Lyndon Johnson as president. And by the way, this idea of national health care, this has been talked about literally since Teddy Roosevelt. This is not a new concept. Healthcare is a human right. That's what Teddy Roosevelt was talking about. That's what FDR was talking about. Harry Truman was talking about it. Kennedy was talking about it. Kennedy got killed. Lyndon Johnson picked up the mantle. And their idea was according to people in their administration, will start with the elderly who are most impacted by healthcare costs and sickness. Will start, and they did in 1965, without the technology we have today. They implemented Medicare. 19 million people, elderly people, signed up in the first year. So if you could start a brand new program and have 19 million people sign up with a technology that is way, way behind where we are today, why can't we, over a 4-year period, simply expand that program? I don't think it's such a difficult operation.
So when you talk about the drug companies and the lobbyists and the enormous amount of money that they spend, does this exist anywhere else other than the United States, lobbyists on that level?
No, of course not. And the reason, in Canada, what you have is you have a national health care program and so forth. And they sit down and, they negotiate with the drug companies. They have their own approach. But every other major country on earth says to the drug companies, of course you can't charge us any price you want. This is a reasonable price. Tell me what your profits are, what your expenditures are. This is a price. For us, you can walk in, if you have an illness, you could walk into the pharmacy tomorrow and the price has been doubled. And you say to the pharmacist, what happened? He said, they just raised the prices. They could do it any day they want, any price they want.
Now, lobbyists are, in general, when people talk about lobbyists, it's an unattractive term. We think of it in terms of a negative. We don't think of, oh, thank God there's lobbyists. We think, wow, there's someone with enormous amounts of money using that money to gain influence on politicians, and it shapes regular people. It shapes our lives mostly in a negative way. This is the way most people look at it. I'm not saying it's correct. Why do we have that system in place? Like, why do we have lobbyists? Why is it legal for someone to spend exorbitant amounts of money to affect our civilization, to affect the way our culture works?
All right, now you're taking us into a whole new area.
Yeah.
All right, let's look.